I'm guessing. Yeah.
One minute warning, 1 minute until live. Thirty seconds. Please check your microphones.
Hello, hello.
Ten seconds. We're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the January 5th, 2026 organizational and regular meeting of the Board of Education. If you could take a moment to silence your cell phone and then join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Jen, could you take roll for me, please?
Absolutely. President Roush,
Here.
Vice President McFarland,
Here.
Secretary Ringgold is here, Treasurer Lauterbach, Trustee Blasey,
Here.
Trustee Craig,
Here.
Trustee Horowitz.
Present.
All right. Item number 2 on the agenda for action, election of a temporary chairperson. The meeting shall be called to order by the ranking officer of the preceding board, who shall serve as the presiding officer until the election of a temporary chairperson who shall serve, who shall in turn serve until the election of a president. Like, make a motion for myself to be the temporary chairperson.
Support.
Motion by Roush, support by McFarland. Any discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 3 for information, identification of the district's legal status. Under the revised school code, MCL 380.1, the district's legal status was defined as General Powers School District effective July 1st, 1996. Item 4 for action, election of the officers of the board. Election of the officers of the board as outlined in Board Policy 2506. Three-person Board of Education nominating committee submitted the proposed slate of officers for 2026. The proposed slate is as follows: President Phil Roush, Vice President Scott McFarland, Secretary Jennifer Ringgold, Treasurer John Lauterbach. I have a motion for item 4.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Horowitz, support by McFarland. Any discussion or questions? All in favor of approving the officers as proposed in item 4, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 5 for information, appointments for 2026 study committees. For 2026 Administrative Services, Phil Roush as chair, John Lauterbach and Jennifer Ringgold also serving. For Finance, Facilities, and Operation, Chair is Brad Blasey, with members John Lauterbach and Scott McFarland. Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment, Chair Jennifer Ringgold, with Mecky Craig and Ann Horowitz. Human Resources, Chair Ann Horowitz, members Mecky Craig and Scott McFarland. Other committee appointments are as follows. The 2026 Gerstacker Teacher Proficiency Awards Committee, John Lauterbach. 2026 Distinguished Service Awards Committee, Scott McFarland. 2026 Administrator Inspiring Excellence Award Committee, Jennifer Ringgold. 2026 Advisory Board on Instruction in Sex Education and Birth Control, Jen Ringgold. 26 District School Improvement Committee, Mecky Craig. 26 MPS School Board Association Representative at the Claire Gladwin RESD, Scott McFarland. Item 6 for action, scheduled meetings for the 26 calendar year are as follows in the agenda packet, unless otherwise stated. The dates of special meeting or changes in the dates of regular meetings will be posted at least 18 hours prior to the time of a special or regular or rescheduled meeting. The superintendent or designee is authorized to post notices of the meetings at the discretion of the Board of Education. Do I have a motion to approve the dates as follows in the agenda packet?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by McFarland, support by Ringgold. I know this is a long ways in the future, but I will be gone November 16th. I have a conference for work, so I was looking at the calendar, and we don't have to figure this out now, given the 18-hour notice period, but we could move that back 1 week, but that would be the Monday of Thanksgiving week. So I don't know if that's if that's easier for people to attend or harder for people to attend. Obviously, we do have systems in place for other officers to cover as president as well. Anybody have strong opinions? Is the 23rd okay for people?
Maybe, probably.
I don't know.
I don't know what I'm doing next
I know
week.
it's a long ways in the future, yes.
And the admin team, that's a trickier piece too, if it's on a different, for the, like, all of the other logistics for us to meet too, right? Okay.
Okay. Noting the one change to November 23rd, any other discussion or questions? All in favor of approving the schedule as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item number 7, 2026 appointments, designations, and Board of Education matters. 7.1 for action, appointment of the Board of Education's legal counsel. The firm of Thrun Law PC has been designated as the board's legal counsel. In addition, the superintendent is authorized to retain specialized legal counsel through other legal firms as appropriate. It is recommended that the board approve the legal representation as outlined through December 31st, 2026. Make a motion to appoint Thrun Law PC as our legal counsel.
So moved. Or support. Or, I'm sorry, John.
Motion.
I should have said it.
Support.
Motion by Lauterbach, support by McFarland. Any discussion or questions?
I just have a question. When do we appoint them at this meeting, when does our retainer with them renew? Is that on a calendar year basis?
I feel like it's a calendar year. I'm looking over to our
Okay, so it's a fiscal year. So we're currently under a retainer agreement with them through what, the end of the school year? Okay.
I feel like we had this conversation, and I'm sorry, I can't remember.
I just,
specifics.
this is fine. I just don't know if we should have it align with whenever our
Oh, yeah, we can. do that.
retainer agreement expires. Because we pay them a chunk
Yes.
and then pay them by the hour. So
Mhm.
it would make sense to have this appointment, rather than December 31st, 26, have it terminate at the same time that our existing retainer agreement expires.
John,
Yes.
Sarah just corrected me. We just got the bill today.
For the annual.
So it's
Oh,
for
so it
January
is
1.
calendar year.
Yeah.
Okay,
So then December 31st would be appropriate then?
okay, there we go.
Thanks for asking. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor of approving through in law PC through December 31st, 26, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 7.2 for action, fiscal designations and authorizations. Penny.
It is recommended that the board designate Huntington Bank and any other public depository qualified in accordance with MCL 380.1221, the revised School Code of Michigan, as approved depositories of school district funds through December 31st, 2026. The treasurer of the Board of Education is the legal financial officer for the school district, and as such is authorized to sign checks for Midland Public Schools. The superintendent and associate superintendent of finance are the only other members of staff authorized to sign checks for Midland Public Schools. It's recommended that the board approve this authorization through December 31st, 2026 for these staff members.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Lauterbach, support by Horowitz. Any further discussion or questions on 7.2?
Is there any need to amend this to say superintendent, assistant superintendent, and associate superintendent for finance?
That's a great catch. It's actually should just be the superintendent and, oh, it is associate superintendent. It's just Anna and I.
Okay. There wouldn't be a situation where you would want Brian authorized to be able to sign?
Nope, I think this follows our past practice, and either Anna or I are typically available. Thank you for the question.
Mm-hmm.
Disclosing that my spouse is an employee of Huntington Bank. He doesn't deal with any of Midland Public Schools funds or anything like that, but just making sure that y'all are aware of that.
Thanks, Jen.
Any further discussions or questions? All in favor of approving item 7.2, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 7.3 for action, personnel authorizations. Penny.
The board, as in previous years, has authorized the superintendent or designee to sign any legal documents relating to personnel actions which the board has approved. This authorization has been made at the organizational meeting for the entire year rather than granting the authorization at each board meeting. It's recommended that the board continue this authorization through December 31st, 2026 to the superintendent or designee. It's further recommended that the board delegate authority to accept resignations and retirements to the superintendent of schools or designee through December 31st, 2026. Resignations, retirements will be reported in subsequent agendas.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Lauterbach, support by Horowitz. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor of approving item 7.3, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 7.4 for action, administrative assistant authorization. Penny.
It is recommended that the superintendent's designee, the administrative assistant to the Board of Education, be authorized to assist the secretary of the board in election matters through December 31st, 2026. And this is one of those times each year where we have a chance to just give Sarah Dooley a little shout out for all the good work that she does.
Amen.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Ringgold, support by Horowitz. Any further discussion or questions on 7.4? All in favor of approving item 7.4, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. Item 8, request to address the board, Joe Bonadies.
Greetings. I appreciated the GMB update at the December meeting. He gave a very high-level overview of the process, but did miss a key aspect from the taxpayer perspective. The data is getting gathered. A steering team is about to roll from January to March. In the April to May timeframe, there will be community engagement on findings and concepts. And then the marketing job for the bond is formulated in July and implemented in August. So the first public input is in April or May, and you're going to basically be locked into something by mid-June on your accelerated timeline. As a way of preventing another crash and burn cycle, I would like to proactively encourage anyone on the bond steering committee to get out there and ask questions in a range of venues and be sure that this is something that might work. Based on Omnitech's difficulty in getting input, the committee will have to actively inquire on the viability of various aspects of a new bond. You do not want to try and fly another corporate stakeholder bond, as the public is obviously not on that train. Welcome to 2026. You're going to have to push to get this in the mid-June bond application window. Thank you.
Anybody, that Joe was the only one that signed up ahead of time. Anybody else care to address the board? All right. Item 9, Board of Education matters and presentations to the board. Item 9.1 for action, approval of MPS emergency operations plans. Kara.
Pursuant to Public Act 436 of 2018, it requires that school districts review existing emergency operation plans, EOPs, and further require that these plans be adopted or reviewed in conjunction with at least one law enforcement agency that has jurisdiction over the district and includes a review of the vulnerability assessment. To ensure our schools remain as safe as possible, we are transitioning our emergency operation plans to the standardized all hazards emergency operations plan template recommended by the Michigan State Police Office of School Safety. These EOPs are reviewed annually and approval is requested from the Board of Education every other school year. The EOPs are retained in the Office of the Associate Superintendent of Student Services and Human Resources, due to the confidential nature of the information, and board members may review them by request.
Thanks, Kara. Do I have a motion to approve item 9.1?
I'll move to approve item 9.1.
Support.
Motion by McFarland, support by Ringgold. Any further?
I think it was Horowitz.
Horowitz? I didn't know who beat you to the punch. Any further discussion or questions for Kara?
The annual review, was that something completed recently or that will happen soon? It said that these are reviewed annually. When did that take place? With law enforcement, the annual review with law enforcement?
Yep, they look over this and then we kind of work together on the plan together, which I think we looked at in September or even October. We were kind of starting to work on that. So they review it.
Each year, the building principal and at our secondary schools, the full admin team collaborate. It used to be with Jeff or Brian, now with Kara, to review those plans. Given we have a new template this year, it was an opportunity to very thoroughly review those and just ensure that they're perfectly tight. And to Kara's point, you know, we continue to have a great relationship with the Midland Police Department, as well as Jen Boyer and our emergency operations here in the county. And so those folks are part of that review, and they will have select access to these, again, confidential, because there's information in there that we certainly want to maintain confidentiality, but they are partners with us in that. Because if there was to be an emergency, those are the teams that will be responding alongside with our own team.
And that was part of the window and door labeling system too, that just went in, correct?
Yeah, all connected to school
Yep.
safety, yes,
Just as people see things around the building, that's what it was for.
yes.
Yep.
These are very comprehensive plans, close to 200 pages, I think, for each school, because they have a separate plan.
Any other discussion or questions? All in favor of approving item 9.1, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Item number 9.2 is why we did an extra meeting in January. I am very appreciative of every board member and appreciative of the relationship that I have with each and every one of you. I think we are a very highly functioning board, but highly functioning teams also work on self-improvement. And I think this is an opportunity for us to work together with Adam and Lori, who I'll introduce in a second, on our teamwork and cohesiveness as a board. I think it also demonstrates leadership throughout our district, as this is an opportunity for us to get a little bit better every day, and work on a couple things. I think today, with the help of Adam and Lori, who have volunteered their time to give back to the district, and thank you, are gonna lead us through team building workshop and make sure that we kind of focus on two things. One would be to really build the board's capacity to engage in effective and productive communication and dialogue amongst ourselves. I think one of the things that we can continue to improve on as a board is make sure that we take the public through the decision-making process and be a bit more articulate in our thoughts in what we're weighing as pros and cons as we make decisions. And then second, really to develop shared working norms and agreements as another outcome. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Adam and Lori Peterson of A.L. Peterson Consulting Group. I will let them introduce themselves as well, but parents of, I think, 4 MPS graduates. And, really excellent citizens of our community that are looking to give back and have volunteered to put this session on for us. So I'll stop there and turn it over to Adam and Lori so they can introduce themselves.
Great. So yeah, thank you for having us here, just making sure our connections are all working. As Phil mentioned, I worked with Phil and actually his father at Dow Corning back in the day. So we've been in Midland since 1988. I've had our 4 kids. I've worked at Dow Corning, retired from Dow in 2019 to pursue consulting with my wife, Dr. Lori Peterson. Many people know her from, go ahead and talk about where you've worked.
So I'm a veterinarian in town. I've worked at several practices. I worked as a veterinary assistant at practice in town, and then a full-time veterinarian in a couple practices. Did some relief work for a period of time while we were commuting our transporting children everywhere. And back, we're getting ready to work full-time in the Tri-City area again after in a couple more weeks. So, but as well as our 4 children attended and graduated Midland Public Schools between the windows of 2016 to 2022. And we really have appreciated everything that all the volunteers and board and community do through our various exposures. Adam more in a corporate and environment, and mine more in a small clinical, or we've done a lot of work with nonprofits as well. We have a combined perspective but a shared passion for leadership development, communication, mentoring, and organizational health. And so this has given us an opportunity to work with several different groups, and we found some great tools, a vast array of them that we have kind of like to
pull from
in an assortment to get a better picture than just a 2-dimensional look at how people work well together.
Yeah. And so we're talking with Phil, and Penny, we chose Working Genius, which is from Patrick Lencioni and the Table Group. They developed this over the COVID shutdown. because they were speaking and teaching and doing lots of work. And when they couldn't do that, they kind of grouped together and said, let's pool our minds around how work gets done, because there are lots of personality assessments. There's the Clifton Strength Finder from Gallup, and those have been out there for a long time. And they really wanted to find something, and the way I refer to it is it's more portable. Because if you take the Clifton Strength Finder and you have your 5 signature strengths, I don't remember my 5. I remember a couple of them, but I don't remember anybody I worked with. And so this idea of working together and understanding each other better, even Myers-Briggs, you might have an idea what other people are around introvert, extrovert, but it's hard to remember all 4 things about somebody else.
Or Enneagram.
Or Enneagram, any of those things, right? This is a team tool to really help look at how you work, what work you enjoy, and then to hopefully think about the type of work you're doing and where other people might enjoy different things than you enjoy. And just that perspective on it. A lot like a personality profile, but much more applied to how work gets done. And so we'll be walking through that with all of you tonight. We've kept this at a really high level. Anything that you want to engage with us with and ask questions about your own reports or your own results, we don't have anything about you in here, but we definitely want to sort of involve you in that conversation. So I'll let you gauge your participation as we go. The first and sort of foundational part of this is, and this is maybe an odd thing, but many people don't really get the fact that there really are 3 stages of work. We're really good about, this is idea and this is implementation or execution. And things get messed up when you don't have the activation phase in the middle. And that activation phase is really key. And that's where I think a lot of the time we've spent volunteering and working with, teams and nonprofits and building groups together, it takes a while to activate. It's not just, let's do this and then plump, it's happening, right? We all know that. And so putting language to it, I think, is really helpful. So this idea of having 3 stages of work, and then we're going to talk about every job that you're getting done, no matter where you work, is a 6-letter job. And so we're going to walk through that. That's the model, basically. So each stage of work has 2 different steps to it. And that starts with wonder. And again, this is all just made up by Patrick Lencioni and his team, right, of saying, how does this work together? So wonder is that genius of just saying, why are things the way they are? And as nerds, as an engineer and veterinarian, and having 4 nerd children, when this came out in 2021, we took it as a family with the 6 of us and went through, and we realized our second son is such a wanderer. His whole life, have you ever thought about why the dinosaurs like this? And we're like, no, we've never thought. Right, so that just made sense to us. It's like, of course, Vic has wonder, right? We just saw that in him. It put words to it of, that's that thing that's a little different than the other kids that we have. Invention is the other part of ideation. So when people wonder why something is that way, invention is normally the one saying, hey, we could do it this way. We could do it this way. Have you thought about doing it differently? And actually bringing ideas to the table about changing things. Discernment is that next stage that says, well, yeah, we could do that, but have you thought of this? And maybe we ought to recycle that idea. And invention is one of the things that I brought to work often. And I'd be in the brainstorm meeting, and I'm the one doing many more Post-its than other people. And I always felt people were shooting me down. And I realized now a lot of them were just discerning my bad ideas and helping me recycle them, right? Because I'm like, I can give you 20 ideas, right? But I have a harder time than discerning. And luckily, I'm married someone that's strong in that area. And so discernment, recycles that and then eventually says, yeah, we should do this. And they have an instinct or a trust the gut with discernment that it doesn't have to always just be the data makes sense, just to say that about discernment. Then galvanizing is like, okay, we're really going to do this. We're going to move forward. Let's put a plan together. Let's get the people energized. Let's go rally the troops. And galvanizing is an area, again, if that's lacking, it's very hard to get things off the ground because everybody's already busy with what they're doing. And so galvanizing needs to get people's attention and say, hey, here's an idea we're moving forward with. We want to implement this. Let's get on board, right? And so they rally the troops to that point. Enablement is the start of implementation. They're hearing like, we're going to make a change. There's something that's going to happen. Have we have we dotted the i's and crossed the t's? Like, if we change that, this is gonna need to change too. They see the dominoes. They're that behind the scenes person a little bit that's kind of sweeping up sometimes because they just wanna help make it work, right? And so enablement.
gaps.
Yeah, see the gaps. They see where the gaps are because we're going from a high level down. We'll talk about that. It really is coming from a high altitude down to landing the plane, right? And so enablement's like, okay, if these changes are happening, if this implementation is going on, don't forget these things and really identifying the gaps. And the last one's tenacity. And if, wonder kind of starts with seeing the big things of why the world is the way it is. And tenacity is wanting to get things done in the world, real time, stop talking, let's get to work. And I know some of you have that, and it's very hard for you to sit in a meeting for 2 hours and not be doing other things, right? Because tenacity likes to do stuff.
Our second born has.
Yes, our second born is off the charts tenacity. And, she.
And the only one in the family.
And the
right?
only one in the family that had it. And so she was high-wired, very strong, had her schedule, probably got more done in a day than anybody else would get done in a day. But at the same time, all very short-term, check the box kind of stuff, right? She's not the wonder one of saying, what if we changed how we did things, So yeah, it was interesting for us to go through this as a family and sort of apply it when it first came out of the box. But that's the 3 stages of work and then the 6 geniuses of getting work done. And every job is a 6-letter job. So just because somebody works in research at Dow doesn't mean they should all have wonder and invention, because you're not going to get the experimentation done without someone with tenacity that actually gets the data to say, does it work or not? So every job is a 6-letter job, including, showing up every day in the cafeteria, to say, yeah, we got to make the recipes this week, but hey, this machine's getting old and worn out. Are we going to replace it, or how do we do that, right? The wonder and invention of better ways to improve efficiency in things that feel very operational or implementation. It still needs that wonder, discernment, galvanizing to improve things. So just to reinforce that, I should say every job is a 6-letter job 10 more times. All right, that's part of the key message here. So you all took the assessment and got a
Thank you
individual
for doing
permit.
that, by the way.
Yeah,
appreciate
exactly.
y'all
We
doing that.
we know we gave it to you right around Christmas and said, please have it done by January 4th.
Right.
So thank you very much for getting those in. And your results come back and you get different pairings of this. You get your 2 geniuses, and that's generally, there's 2 things that will give you joy, that you will enjoy doing. So as you're spending time in this area of work, time passes quickly. You're not trudging through it. As compared to your working frustrations, which are things that normally you will procrastinate because they're going to take more energy than give you energy. And so those parts of the job are the ones that I found, as someone who lacks tenacity, that I did not want to do my expense reports on time. I don't know why. It's how I'm wired. I would stack up receipts, dreading doing my monthly expense report. And I actually, near the end of my career, was able to do them about 7 times a year because I would have one just late enough they hadn't cut off my card yet. But I had minimized the number of times I had to do expense report. I don't know why I hated it. I hated it. And I worked with people that, of course, were like, every receipt, just doot, 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 and filing it away. And that's not me. Right. And so the way I procrastinated that, I know that is part of my working frustration. I see how that showed up at work for me. The sort of weird part that might not be as obvious to all of you is the 2 in the middle. And these are working competencies. These are things you are probably very good at, but they don't give you joy and they really don't drain you as much as a frustration would. And so it's very easy to spend more time here without really getting joy from it because you're good at it. And people ask you to do it, and you're like, yeah, I can do that. I can do that.
I just want to talk about, so the geniuses, the competencies, the frustrations, obviously we come from a somewhat competitive family and other people have that nature of, well, why can't I have a genius, 6 geniuses or 3 geniuses, or this doesn't seem fair. It has nothing to do with talent or skill. It really has to do with what brings you joy, where you get that energy and that positive momentum from. And so it's just not feasible for us as human beings to have the capacity for those things, these 6 windows. Obviously, it's a tool, we're simplifying things, but your geniuses, your frustrations, and your competencies, it's okay for those to exist. You can't have everything be top priority. You can't have everything. We know we have to have differences in our lives. One of the things that's interesting in the studies, and you say Patrick Lencioni just makes it up, but they've done so much research. They have so many numbers. It's not like we sit around.
No, 1 million people have taken the assessment now, and there's lots of feedback on how it works.
But one of the most interesting things is when we think about burnout, we tend to think, well, burnout's going to happen when I'm doing something that I don't like. But there's actually more of a self-awareness when you're doing something you don't like. What they have realized is that burnout actually happens in our competencies, things that we might be good at. So we often will have them on our table or we won't shy away from them, but that don't bring us joy, that don't feel like we've accomplished something really meaningful to ourselves. And so the people that are stuck in their competencies, that's often where burnout and frustration happen rather than actually when you're working in your frustrations.
Yeah, you'll quit if you're in your frustrations. You don't want to do it. You'll say, I can't, this isn't something I want to do week after week.
You'll know to step away from it. But in your competencies, you'll get stuck in there and suddenly you realize that that's what's happening. Mm-hmm. And as we move on, we'll talk about some things you can do to kind of pivot and really either redefine your roles or even just redefine your perspectives when you're having to do something in your competency for an extended period of time or even in your frustration.
Yep. So, no, thank you for highlighting that because it really is, of course, if you're working, 80 hours a week, you're going to burn out because of just a physical exhaustion. So this is the burnout that happens because you're not experiencing joy in your work, right? It's a low-grade burnout is what Lencioni calls it.
And when we say work, we mean volunteering, any capacity of activities that you're doing.
So exactly. Again, you mentioned the competitiveness or whatever. I think there's a little bit of guilt and judgment that can come with this sometimes. I do smile, I laugh. I think the people that have tenacity compare how much they can get done to other people sometimes and go, hey, what's with them? I get a lot more done than that. But again, normally it's very implementation, operational, not maybe solving the big picture as much as playing whack-a-mole. And because you get a lot done, but man, you're fighting fires that you might have someone help you put out, and prevent, a longer term if you back up a step or two. And so it's okay to, we need these different parts of that. The other thing is to think, well, I am in a job like this, I should have a different genius. Like, no, every job's a 6-letter job, right? And so you don't have to think, it'd be better if I had this. It's like, no, own who you are and say, I really do enjoy this. I don't enjoy this as much. I think it's a sliding scale. It's not your competency. It's not how good you are at it, right? It's just a sliding scale. I enjoy this kind of work more than this kind of work, right? My competence.
Just to pick a profession, that's loud, I'll say. A tax accountant firm needs people with wonder and invention and discernment and galvanizing and enablement and tenacity. And we don't necessarily think of that. We'll think, tax accountants, that's a certain job. You're doing the same thing. Everyone's doing the same thing. But to be effective as a team, to be productive as an organization, they need to fulfill all aspects of that process.
Right, exactly. And so that idea of saying, don't feel guilty about not having it and that being judgment of others, you have to be careful the same way. I mean, I know I felt that. It's like, well, when people were shooting down my ideas, I'm like, well, great, come up with your own ideas then, right? And it's like, no, I didn't see that as a cycle of them refining and helping me have better ideas. I thought, well, then, great, you guys all have ideas then, let's hear it. So that's what this idea of saying, let's work together and bring it all together.
Right, so rather than feeling guilty about the geniuses we don't have, to recognize and appreciate the need and where they are in everyone else. And then also the, were you gonna comment on?
The fundamental attribution error is just this idea of, if you're different than I am, I'm gonna view it through my lens, right? And my favorite example of this is, somebody with a U of M license plate cuts you off in traffic and they're just a jerk. Now,
Anyone cuts you off in traffic. This is where the discernment comes in. So anyone cuts you off in traffic and you assume, well, they didn't see me. They're self-focused, negative. We assume other people's intent. But if we do the exact same action, we understand our own intention and we give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. Right. And so to that
I'm busy. I didn't see that.
Or I have a sick kid at home, so I know I cut you off. I'm sorry, but I have a good reason. Right. And so this is a classic.
Or I didn't go to Michigan.
Right.
That could be it too.
Yeah.
I had to throw that one in there.
We should have been on a delay, I think. Yeah. But yeah, that classic of we give ourselves the benefit of the doubt because we actually understand what we're intending to do. But we tend to assign or attribute to other people a more negative or black and white perspective on the actions that we perceive because we don't know what their motivation was.
And basically, you judge the people by their actions and you judge yourself by your intentions, right? That's really the basic part of this. And so it's really easy then to say, well, why aren't they as good as I am at something else?
Why can't they discern this? Why can't they get that assignment done?
Right.
Why can't they do that?
Yeah.
So.
And it is fun. The more we've done this, I mean, we saw one of our team members was so good. And again, I think it was discernment and picking up on interpersonal conflict before it ever had a chance to turn into actual out-and-out conflict. And we were talking about how certain teams just have those times that you butt heads. And she was like, my teams don't do that. I must be really lucky. It's like, no, you're really good at sensing it before it gets to the butting heads part, right? And just not seeing that. She just thought, oh, everybody has that same, but I just get lucky. I don't get those people that have the clash. And it's like, no, you've been doing this a long time. You are
the common
good at
denominator in that, right?
So, so the altitude of geniuses, I brought this up earlier, Wonder's kind of at 30,000 feet. You want to bring it down and say, okay, well, why do we keep having these problems? Why is this happening over and over? Versus then invention is like, maybe we should do it differently. Maybe we can try this time. And again, it shouldn't just be one idea. It should be several ideas. So then discernment can say, yeah, we should try something different. Maybe we do this or this, right? And again, that's an activation phase. So that's like pilot and trial, whatever you want to call it, happens in that 20 to 15,000 feet. And then you say, hey, that worked pretty well. Let's actually go with it. So galvanizing now is saying, you bet, we're just gonna land the plane and bring it down. And so that's when enablement and tenacity kick in to say, okay, then here's what has to happen for this to work, and really put it all the way to the ground.
And to cement the landing the plane analogy, it's sort of like 30,000 feet, where are we gonna land the plane? 25,000 feet, oh, this place looks pretty good. 20,000 feet, well, what do we need to do? We need to get everybody's seats in their upright positions and their tray tables locked, 15,000 feet. Then you're telling everybody, we're landing the plane.
Yeah, so the ground crew's getting all ready and all that,
And
right?
then 5,000 feet, they've got the ground crew acting, and then you hit the ground. And so that's the altitude where those come in from.
Yeah. I'll bring it up here because we're not going to go into it really deeply, but as a board, your meetings are pretty well set and they run a certain way. But in your agendas, if you think about this or in discussions you've had, especially maybe in your subcommittees.
Or in your leadership opportunities outside of the board.
Right. Is the idea of saying you having that conversation work where it actually goes from high level to lower level, and knowing what altitude you're at is really key for the meeting and the topic you're on. And so if you bring up, the next bond, and it's like, okay, are we in idea phase or are we trying to actually galvanize and get people on board? And if you're having those two different conversations, you're not going to really be communicating very well with each other. You need to say, we need to have some idea phase, and then go through some discernment, and then move to galvanizing, and that can be any topic, right? And the hard part is, again, for me, I'm one of those invention guys. I like to have ideas. When we're trying to land the plane, it's not time for me to say, what if we went somewhere else? Right? That's
turbulence.
That's turbulence, right? And so that happens all the time in meetings when, or the same way, if we're in an idea meeting, we're trying to brainstorm and think about ways to do things differently, folks with tenacity are like, that won't work.
Or they're like, oh, I have a truck and my grandmother works over here and we can make that happen. How about Tuesday?
Yeah, and you're like, well, we're not ready to that. We're not ready to put it on the calendar. We're just sharing ideas, right? And so that's the same way. That's a big dip down. And it's like, hey, we're not at that level yet. Let's stay up here for a little while longer, right? And so I think the altitude's helpful when you think about the actual process of talking through a topic of where are we at with this.
And clarifying that, and again, in this particular situation, maybe doesn't always work, but while every job is a 6-letter job, not every meeting is a 6-letter meeting.
Right.
And so if you know you're having a high altitude meeting, then you maybe have some people that don't need to be there. And to respect their time and their energy and their geniuses. And so that's something that when you're in a capacity where you can make those decisions, or you could make very clear, this is what's happening at this meeting, it really can reduce a lot of frustration and increase efficiency.
And it's still good to make note of, okay, we know John's worried about XYZ because he doesn't see how that's going to work. Great, we'll make note of that, but we're not going to debate it for 20 minutes in the ideation meeting. right? As we move through discernment and galvanizing, those should come back up, right? So, all right.
I even think about this too, from the board's perspective of if you are working on anything change, whether it's a bond, curriculum, strategy, it's really even in terms of communication to the public, maybe you don't use these words, but it's, hey, we're in idea phase.
Yeah.
We're in activation and we're in implementation.
Yeah, I think those 3 phases of work actually will help with change management in the district.
Yeah.
I think it helps the school boards talk about, we're doing ideation, hey, we're getting ready to discern and try to galvanize and get out and implement this thing versus, oh no, we're implementing in February, because sometimes we are. And it is hitting fast and hard and it needs to get plugged in right away. And that's just what it is. We don't have time to go back and recycle and figure out how to do it better. It's happening now, right?
So you're very right, Phil.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yep. All right, I'm going to go through this one more time. Introducing a couple of new words. There are geniuses that are more responsive and geniuses that are more disruptive, are, again, the Lencioni terms for this. And wonder, again, is responding to what they see in the world, right? They're pondering this greater possibility and asking these big questions. You know, our son Vic, wondering all the time. And then as invention as a genius is more of a disruptor. They're going to come forward and sort of, takes the question and disrupt the environment with their ideas. What if we did this? What if we did that? Here's these other changes we could do. Then discernment responds to those ideas, right? And can filter them through, help select the best ones, recycle. To then galvanizing again is disruptive because they're disrupting people's attention, saying, hey, look over here, we're going to change, come rally the troops kind of thing. Enablement responds by saying, how can I help? What else needs to be done, right? And then tenacity is disrupting anything blocking the completion of the project, right? They want to see change in the world. So wonder starts with sort of seeing the world. Tenacity wants to see a change in the world. And that's how work gets done, right? It flows all the way through there. And it's fun because we've done this with actually lots of different teams. People can have 2 geniuses. I mean, there's WTs out there, right? That they enjoy the big pondering and they like getting a lot done during the day, right? And so you don't have to have 2 geniuses that are right next to each other. Now, you might have 2 that are responsive, and normally those people are a little quieter and need to fight for airtime sometimes with the people that might be double disruptive, that are able to sit there and I'm a double disruptive. Galvanizing is my second one.
Big surprise.
And so I'll say, hey, I have an idea, let's go do it. Right? And again, fortunately, I married someone that has discernment.
I'm a double responder, so.
Right. Right. But that idea of saying, okay, hey, wait, I'm sharing an idea right now. I'm not galvanizing. Because I think most of the time she would assume I'm galvanizing when I approach like, let's go do
right.
kind of stuff. Right. And so and I've seen this with CEOs. We did this presentation one time and the CEO, this is great. We should use this in hiring. Turned to his HR leader and said, start interviewing people. I go, you just did it. You just had an idea and we're galvanizing in the same breath. And like his VP of technology was a discerning person. And it's like, and they honestly went, thank you. Because this is what happens every day at work, right? It's just that skipping right past it, right past it. And it was good. We had a really good session because people admitted, yeah, we know if he doesn't bring it up twice, he's not serious. Because ideas don't really get galvanized that fast. You got to go through the process, right? And he would forget. So yeah, that's how they all work together. So with that, I don't know if you guys want to share or just kind of talk about how this resonates with you, how maybe you see your geniuses play out. We've shared some examples of what that might look like.
We forgot to remind y'all to print them out.
To print it out or actually bring it, or anything you remember about them or that you'd like to, this is a good time to kind of just talk about how you see this might working with your group.
We do have a team map, but it doesn't have any personal names on it. So you can see what your map, we'll show what your map is, but you, completely up to you what you want to volunteer or share as far as if you have questions, if it doesn't feel quite right, and as we share some more information about the pairings, you might think, oh, that doesn't feel quite right. And I challenge you to really think, was I answering about what brings me joy, or was I answering about what feels safe, because I know how to do it, or was I answering? So there's these little spins we can put on things sometimes that might skew the first time we do the assessment. So if we don't feel like it's quite making the right fit, that's possible. and any self-assessment can be that way. My wanting to geek out some point is when I actually retire, to be able to take the strengths finders and the Myers-Briggs and the working genius and just cross-map them all with thousands of people, because I'm sure there's nuances. Like, I know that discernment probably has a higher empathy and a higher high context communication style, because they tend to, like Adam said, that's not always data-based. A lot of times it's kind of gut feeling, reading the room, body language that can impact that too. So there's different nuances that we'll see in the pairings that play out, that someday it'd be so cool to have that information. But humans are not, we're not two-dimensional people, right? So these are good tools, but they're limited. So would anyone have any questions or feedback, something they want to share about their assessment? You can't look at your neighbors and share on theirs, though. It has to be your own. Was anybody really surprised by something that they might want to be willing to, or not? It's hard to be.
I know you don't have any names listed on there, but
Right.
when you look at the back page of the analysis here, it says analyzing a team, what are the few questions to get you started? What are our team's strengths? So
We are going to put that up. We're
Okay.
going to put that up. You're going to see, actually, I can flip forward to it. So exactly right. What are the strengths? What are the representative? What's here? And so this is how the board turns out. You're one of those numbers. So you can figure out yourself out of the 1 through 8 of where you are on here. So it's nice for a team of 8 to have a genius in every area, right? Wonder, it's typically a little lower represented than the others. That's just kind of the population.
Statistically, yeah.
Statistically as well, but it is good to have someone there. Again, a couple people in discernment, and then, it's really well represented.
Right. One thing that's a little interesting with your team is that there's actually, in the pairings, the specific pairings of what 2 geniuses people have, you have a lot of duplication. You have 3 people that are
and we'll
one
get to that,
pairing and 2 people that are another
it's-
pairing. And so then that.
You start to see that on there too, but yeah.
Yeah.
And then 3 and 7.
Yeah. And so because there's nuances based on what your 2 geniuses are, there's not quite as much diversity in that perspective in your pairings, but you do have all your geniuses covered.
So I didn't think about using the agenda and saying in your subcommittees when there's 3 of you,
Oh, that,
sometimes
yes.
the 3 of you are all in the same box. And I looked at that before coming up here.
Did you look at the subcommittee?
I was just sitting here
Just a
right
few
now.
minutes ago, yeah.
And I'm like, so I think it's interesting that some of you will really get a lot done, because I think all 3 of you have tenacity on one of the committees maybe, right? And so that's gonna be like, hey, we're gonna get it done, boom, boom, boom. Fortunately, I think that committee, that works.
That particular, we'll see. We'll see.
So, but yeah, I think it is interesting, so that it is. Now, we kind of skipped ahead to the pairings a little bit there, but you'll see also 8 on here is a double responsive. And so that would be a person that normally you have to pull into the conversation more to say, what do you think, right? Ask for that discernment, right? Because they aren't a disruptor and responder in that. So that's and the same way, there's people that are double.
3 is a double responder.
3 is a double
Or
disruptor.
disruptor, I mean.
Yeah, and that might need to be like, yep, we know what you think. Right, it's okay. That's just part of how a team has to work.
And don't look at each other right now.
Right, so I think that's, when you say what are your strengths, I think you guys are well balanced, but I also think you have that potential to get out of balance, because of a little bit of that, because of the, like
The
you were saying,
duplicity
the
and
duplicity of
a
how
couple
things kind of
double
match up a little
disruptor,
bit.
yep.
Right, so.
One of the things that was difficult for me personally as I was going through the assessment was continuing to try and remind myself what I like to do, not what I'm good at.
Right.
And answering it in that way gives you results that are a little bit outside of my self-perception, because it's like, okay, I'm good at that, but I
Right.
force myself to do it.
Right.
How do you, I guess my question is, when you think about teams and what makes them highly effective teams, part of me says, like, doesn't really matter what you like to do, you need to exploit everybody's strengths
Right.
and And one of the reasons that we have a team of 8 people is that we can balance each other out.
Yes.
So how do you, when you approach teams and highly effective teams, how are you balancing, or how would you advise teams to kind of balance what you're good at versus what you like to do?
Yeah, and I think part of that is if you're good at it and and again, like we talked about that low grade burnout, as long as you have something filling your tank, it's okay to spend time in your competencies. It's not that competencies are bad, it's that if you never get to be in the genius space, you're gonna burn out long-term. So there's a long-term risk to doing what you're good at that doesn't give you joy.
And if you have time to back up to the cravings and the.
That's next, it's after
okay,
this,
so
it's good.
Then I thought so good there. But there are things that will skew, like people that are strong, heavy in enablement tend to like being approval. They like to feel like they've pleased someone. So if you are doing something that doesn't necessarily bring you joy, but pleasing someone brings you joy, or if you want to help someone, if you're a helper and you know that by being tenacious in something will help someone, then there's ways that you can actually still find the joy in those things that you need to get done. Did that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, so you're recasting what might be the typical role into, yeah, I'm not great at tenacity, but I am good at, enablement gives me joy, and therefore getting this expense report done will somehow give me joy, I don't know.
And so kind of going back, like Simon Sinek and your why, right? Going back and saying, okay, if my geniuses are tied into my why, then how do I bring my task in front of me into my geniuses? And so, pivoting a little bit on that to be able to do, because there's things that, there's skills you have, there's experiences you have, and those all play into part of being an effective team. But if you don't recognize your geniuses on your team, you might be misassigning roles to people, or people might be misvolunteering for roles themselves because they're like, I've done this for 20 years, I know how to do it, let me do it. And someone else maybe doesn't know how to do it, but yet it feeds right into their genius.
That's what I was getting at, the actual skill level might be higher for you, Phil, but someone else has a lower skill level but enjoys it more, they're gonna pass you pretty quick.
And then
If you actually let them do it and pour into them, they're gonna excel at that area.
And then
We
that
have to
gives you
identify
an opportunity to experience situational leadership and mentor someone into something that they're actually maybe even a better fit for, right? We love to see the people we mentor surpass us, because that's the whole point.
Yeah, and this actually, not to take more time in that area, but really to drill into this, there's a difference. I want to go back to what you said. Just getting the work done is what matters versus if people enjoy it or not, right? That is a very production level. We're getting results. Getting results is what's important. And I think there's a higher level that's of importance around people development. Because if you're just getting results and you're not doing people development, when those people retire, you're done, right? You're always going to take a dip. And if you can get to that level of leadership that is in people development and results, you don't leave results. You're getting results and developing people, you don't get the dip. Right, you've got that upcoming wave behind you that's going to fill in and keep going.
And the other aspect of that is coming into light again after the big 80s, 90s movement of, getting the job done, efficiency, and that is the back door and investment in people, and how much we lose when we invest in people and then we haven't fulfilled them or mentored them or put them in a better place, and then we have to start at ground zero investing in someone else because they walked away because all we were concentrating on was production.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we've probably all been around that, where somebody doesn't get to move up because if they moved up, we would lose short-term results. So people get trapped in jobs sometimes, and no one's really trapped anymore, right? They can work remote from wherever they live and change jobs pretty easy. All right. Really didn't really have a lot to talk about gaps. This would be something to take a look at in your sub-teams to say, great, if you don't have that high-level thinking, too busy to notice opportunities or problems at a high level, sort of systemic issues, keep recycling old ideas or products, things like that. If you're always stuck in the bottom and not doing the top, I don't think this team would have a problem not getting things done because you have you're more weighted towards enablement and tenacity. And so it's more likely you're putting out fires versus fire prevention, as we mentioned earlier. But again, I would take a look at that on your sub-teams and see maybe where that works.
Yeah, and sometimes, just a quick aside came to mind, is that when you've got a lot of people in the enablement, tenacity, and even the galvanizing, and you're not spending any time in the Wonder, or as soon as you're in Wonder, people are like, well, we don't have the resources, we don't have enough people to plug into that, then you really need to take a look at the things that you're doing, that where you're using your people, and is that being effective?
Right.
Because your shortage of people might be because they're all stuck doing something that maybe doesn't need to be done anymore, or maybe isn't being done quite the right way. And so, because we all know it's kind of the same people that are doing all the work, right? But we are very hesitant in certain communities especially to stop something because it's sort of working. But if we don't have enough resource somewhere else, we need to wonder and invent what would happen if we did, right? So.
Yeah, like I said, you have your 20 people whacking a mole and putting out fires.
Right.
Instead of saying, what if we had 2 less people doing that and 2 people upstream checking
Neutering
out?
moles or
Yeah,
something.
whatever, okay. So, yes, veterinarian. So, all right, I want to walk through this one more time of sort of thinking about what you crave and what might crush you at those geniuses. And again, this is not just about you. This is how you might work with the other geniuses, right? And I like the word craving on this because there's a difference between being needy and being hungry, right? Craving is about a hunger, not about neediness and just like, well, this is what I like. This is what I like. It's like, no, I am hungry for this. I'm hungry to use my geniuses. That's what I'm built for that. That's kind of my giftedness, right? And so wonder, again, we have one board member with that. They want consideration. They're craving consideration. So you bring up something and people listen and respond positively to that. And if that doesn't happen, right, if they get crushed because that's too high level, that's not what we're talking about, we don't have, and again, immediately, well, we don't have the resources for that, right? That's going to crush them because it's more of a who cares and we can't do it, right? It's getting stomped on right away versus can we spend 3 to 5 minutes encouraging that wonder and listening to them? And sometimes it has to be, okay, we don't have time in this meeting, but please tell me more about that. But maybe this isn't the right forum for it, but I want to hear what you think because it shouldn't be the who cares that is very crushing to them. Invention, again, 3 board members have this. And if you think about, having freedom, they crave freedom with their ideas, and think about what that means to have freedom of being able to share, having a forum and a time and a place just to float ideas, again, that don't get shot down too fast, because that first stage of work is really easy to shoot down. It's not how we've done it, or worse yet, we tried that before, right? We tried that 5 years ago, it didn't work. It's like, well, we didn't try it exactly the flavor we're talking now, right?
And that was 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And again, the geniuses that can make them accidentally feel crushed, again, are that same kind of thing of constraints. We don't have time, we don't have the money, we don't have the budget, whatever that is. And so that's normally going to be the more implementation operational side of things that would accidentally make them feel crushed. So just think about that as your own genius trying to involve the other. Again, every job's a 6-letter job. How do we walk through these? 2 board members with discernment, and we want to trust them even when the data isn't clear and obvious. Listen to their gut or intuition a little bit, right? It's okay for them they don't have maybe even the words to articulate why they feel that way, because I think you said a good thing around reading body language and interpersonal skills, but sometimes you're just picking up on it and you can't even put words to it. Mm-hmm. It's like, this isn't right yet, or I'm leaning this way.
But I want to clarify, discernment is different from fear.
Yes.
Sometimes we'll be operating from a place of fear, no matter what your genius is.
Right.
And that's not the same thing. But if you know that you have a genius of discernment and you've shared that with people to keep that in mind.
Right, exactly, because gut could be a fear response, exactly. And then the same way, that prove it, normally the people that are more disruptive instead of responsive are going to be saying, the galvanizers and the tenacity people are going to say, well, I don't see that. Why are you picking that? Where's the data? Show me the facts, kind of stuff. Galvanizing, 3 board members are there. And you think, what kind of reactions would you crave? It's a reaction, right? I'm a galvanizer. I just want to hear what you think, right? And that idea, again, of apathy or who cares is the worst thing. Of going, no, I'm trying to get something off the ground, and a genius that's saying, I'm too busy for that. I'm not even giving you a reaction to it because it's just my plate is full, you're trying to galvanize something new, and I don't have room on my plate for it. And so I'm actually going to ignore it, right, is something that would make you feel crushed.
A galvanizer would rather hear a no than crickets.
Right.
They really just want some type of a response.
Yeah.
So that then they can pivot and shift.
Right, yeah. And I like this quote from Pat, is the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference, right? It's that I don't care about you. I don't care about that idea, right? And so if it's against me, I can work with that, right? So. Enablement, 4 board members are there, so half of the board. And again, appreciation, if you think about what meaningful appreciation looks like, every time I've asked this of a team, it's saying thank you. I mean, it doesn't take lavish, I mean, I know you guys have nice gifts there. But it's not that. I mean, that idea of being appreciated, it's having someone notice what you did and say thank you. And again, you know, tenacity might accidentally crush that. It's that big picture thinkers might not even notice the small details, right, of what it takes to actually get something done. And so the big picture thinkers that are good at invention and wonder sometimes will miss this as well.
And I would say the thank you does not have to be a limelight, spotlight thank you at all. And actually probably less
not.
preferred.
Right, exactly.
It's the quiet thank yous, right? It's the it's
Meaningful, quiet
true
ones.
appreciation.
Yeah. As we all know, Wally Mayton is very good at that.
A little Wally Graham.
Yes. So, and then tenacity has 3 board members. Again, you know, this is where they really know what clarity. They are craving clarity. They're crushed by ambiguity. And so again, ideation and activations that ignore their concerns, as I brought up earlier. It's like if somebody's saying, what about this? You know, here's my 3 concerns about why that might not work. Then let's make a note of that. Let's bring it to the next meeting. Let's not just throw it away, right? But at the same time, hey, we have to deal, we're in high ambiguity right now when you're at the 30,000 foot level, right? We'll figure it out when we get down to 10,000 feet is what we're trying to say. And that's just a repeat of it's these cravings are not about being needy, they're about being hungry. To wrap things up here, we have a couple more slides for you guys. I mentioned earlier that wonder is the least common, right? We have a lot of helpers in the world, it seems, and it makes sense. We need more people in implementation than we need the dreamers and inventors, right? So it's a little skewed towards implementation, right? And then if you actually combine them, as Lori brought up earlier, the pairings, you start seeing we have a whole lot of ETs in the world, right? Loyal finishers. And the W's down here, there's 4, you see the 4 W's are all down at the lower percentages, right, of where things are. But I like these terms to describe yourself. So if you think about that, and again, this is in your report when you look at your pairing, but also the pairings of your board members. We're gonna put these up here in just a second. I think these are nice words to really talk about this. I'm an IG, I'm an evangelizing innovator. I'm gonna have the idea, I'm gonna go out and get people on board with it, right? You know what I'm not? I'm not a loyal finisher. ETs are my
Nemesis.
are my frustrations. And what I do in work, the last 25 years at work, is I kicked off teams and founded programs and built implementation plans that other people are still working on at Dow today because I didn't stay to finish them, right? They're still implementing things that I helped put together back in 2010. And that was what I enjoy doing, right? Kicking things off, building teams, getting them rolling. And then once it's kind of operational, okay, great. Take 3 to 5 more years to build out that plant, thank you, right? But I wasn't the guy building the plant. So it's kind of fun to look at your frustrations and say, that's probably what you're not. Those 2 words probably describe you pretty well if you think about your frustrations. So here, again, the contemplative counselor being double responsive, normally a little quieter probably in the meetings versus the 2 that are double disruptive in the methodical architect space there. Again, you got a lot enthusiastic encouragers. Yeah, they're not locked. And so I think that's great. But again, as Lori brought up earlier, your 8 people are in 5 boxes, right? And really over half of your group's in 2 boxes. And so it's not as diverse as it might have looked on that first slide, right? And so most of the group is going to be the methodical architect or the enthusiastic encouragers. Which again, none of these are bad, right? It's just that it's nice sometimes to have
They're all essential,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, right. They're all very important, right?
There's not any one that you could pick out and say, that is the ideal leader or that is the ideal team member. There's not.
Right, no.
And so it's, they're just different.
Right, exactly. So, but yeah, so that's really what we had for you guys tonight. We wanted to give you that, again, to help you as a team reflect about your own desires, but also those of the people that, you don't want to crush your fellow board members, right? If they're craving bigger picture thinking and how do we get ideas through and how do we make big changes in the school district, where's that happening? Where are those conversations happening, right? How do you encourage that? And so, yeah, I don't know if any of you guys have other comments you want to make as we wrap up, but really that's about what we have as far as material to share with the
You're going to go
board.
back and revisit the group discussion
Or any of
questions
those,
just a
yeah.
second to see. as
Yeah,
we
put
move
those back up.
forward.
for you guys.
I think if you hold here for a second,
Yeah.
Adam and Lori, and would encourage you to be part of this further discussion, because I think as a board and leadership team with Penny included, I think we should really think about the question you just asked, which is, how do we as a board find the space or the time to actually work through some of those bigger strategic objectives of setting a vision for the district, changing the outcomes that we want to see in our student performance or student outcomes. And I worry a little bit just with the function, how a board functions.
Right.
That an agenda is so set.
Yep.
And it's so operational that it's almost just a task list. And
Yeah, you're very much living in implementation mode as a board.
Right.
You're very
Especially
efficient and good at that because you're running the school district as a board.
right. And there's a little bit more wonder that happens in study committees, but it's only 3 people, right? And I think one of the things that I've thought about or wondered about is, should we be thinking about maybe 1 or 2 workshops a year that, like, it's not the more checklist-oriented
Right.
board packet, but it's actually time set aside to have those structured dialogues to make sure that each of our team members have the time necessary to work through that. Now, the time necessary to wonder might drive some of us nuts. But, like, I think we need to be respectful of, like, each other and to say, like, how do you get through that?
Right, exactly right.
It'll drive the TI nuts.
Yeah.
Hey, but you got I.
let's
We need
go.
your invention though. We need your invention. I think that's part of it is saying, I need you for 2 or 3 hours to kick into the invention mode and put tenacity on the back burner for a little bit, right? Or whatever that might be.
And I don't know what your freedoms are exactly or your constraints as far as being, a public board and that sort of thing, and what you're able to do workshopping as a team versus in smaller groups or in a large group or even that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
because it would be nice to involve, and again, I would encourage, Penny to look at her staff and people, and you, as we talk about these terms, people, you don't have to have them take the assessment. You know who are your disruptive innovators, and that idea of how do you pull a few of those people into these conversations, right? Maybe it's the board plus a few people that are in the trenches that can help vision or that as well, right? Because that's what we always would say with the leadership team. If I'm going into a company's leadership team, I'm going to say, great, you guys are the leaders, but you want to involve the vision of the people that are going to be in these seats in the future as well, right? Because again, everybody has term limits kind of thing and other things they're going to do in life. And these things take a long time to implement sometimes. So how do we keep that continuity and that vision a little bigger than just maybe the 8 people sitting on the board currently?
One thing that I'd love to see, Phil, to your point, is some of these issues that go to our study committees, bringing them to the full board first to get input so that when they're going to the study committee, there's a wider range of, let's think about this, let's consider that. Sometimes if you're not on a particular study committee, you can feel like, okay, I'm seeing this for the first time 2 days before I'm getting asked to vote on it, as opposed to having that heads up to, maybe chat with Penny about it or contribute some thoughts to those discussions.
That's a really good
That's a
add.
really good.
Yeah.
I do think that, Laura, you brought up a point that is front of mind for me, and that is the fact that all of these meetings, with the exception of our subcommittee meetings or study meetings, are public. And I will tell you at work, I'm a very different person in meetings. I say whatever comes to mind. And I don't worry about it getting thrown back in my face, right? Because I know I know my colleagues understand where I'm coming from and there's mutual respect, but we don't always have those same freedoms here. So sometimes I find it very difficult to come up with the right words to kind of express,
Right.
what I want to say without, in my mind, sounding like,
Setting yourself up for something.
setting myself up for something or just sounding kind of silly
Right,
sometimes.
right. No, it is. It's an extra challenge that y'all have here, and I don't know what avenues you have, other than just taking opportunities for personal growth, but with a common language. I mean, that's one of the nice things with these tools, Working Genius or any of them, whatever one you grab, gives you a common language that then you can kind of then come together and we can all say, you know what, this is kind of a 30,000 feet discussion. And if the people on, in CTV don't understand what you reference, they can look into it. But it is an extra challenge that y'all have that as a board is going to be difficult to tackle. But as a person, as a community leader, as a business leader, you can take those applications and those opportunities for growth and then bring them back to the board meeting. That's really about the only suggestion I can think of for y'all at this point. We're happy to work with
however we
anybody
can.
on what, come
Yeah.
alongside in whatever capacity we can. Just reach out and let us know. But that does make it a little bit different. Either you're going to be vulnerable, and then that's a hard thing to do sometimes, or you might not, or you might limit yourself. And that's a reasonable thing.
I've thought a lot about that too, Anne, and how we can position ourselves in a place to be vulnerable enough to engage in these kind of conversations and have the next version of a workshop. And, coming from a place of concern or even fear is where I was at first. I really think, though, our community, including folks who come to our board meetings regularly, want us to be a very high-functioning board and to serve our school community well. And I'm going to choose to believe that that comes with some grace for us to have the kind of conversations that we need to have and the learning that we need to have. So I just wanted you to know I've been thinking a lot about that, too.
And I think some of it comes from the bias that we talk about, that I would like to think for the most part that anyone that feels passionate about anything within our Midland Public School system, whether it's parents or staff or volunteers, they all want what they feel like is the best solution, the best opportunities for our kids. And sometimes we're coming at it from completely different directions, but it doesn't mean we don't all have the same heart. And so sometimes setting that example, showing that vulnerability, modeling some communication, conversation, opportunity for more diversity and thought processes, and that is a great place to start. I mean, somebody has to do it, right? And so what a great chance for y'all to be even more servants to our community by embracing the vision and the team building in that in a public forum that makes it a little less comfortable.
Yeah, I wonder, kind of pulling Mecky's comments and Ann's comments together a little bit, is as I reflect over my time on the board, some of the biggest changes that came to public education were during COVID. And if you remember with the ESSER funds, it gave us the opportunity to experiment. I think it was 6 things in particular with like curriculum and student supports. 4 of them worked and are still in place. 2 of them didn't work.
It's a pretty good hit rate, really.
Yeah, that's really good.
I just wonder, like, through these conversations of, Mecky, I think you have a really good idea of bringing some of these things to the board first before throwing them to the study committee, or Ann, your comments around, I think so often we try to be right all the time and don't necessarily, should we be more intentional about saying this is an experiment?
Yeah, this is a 20,000-foot thing. We still want to talk about it right now, so
Yeah.
we all get on the same page and the public can hear it.
Right.
And that probably would help as well with some of the things that have been said in the past about transparency or whatever, because it's not just landing out there, right?
And it's like even 2 months ago, we heard from some second grade teachers that were working on play invitation and what it did for their particular elementary school and make sure that, we as a board are giving our professionals the autonomy to do what's right for for their school and their students in particular, but then share those experiments.
Right.
When
Yeah.
when successful and when not successful.
Yeah.
And why. And I think incorporating some of this language could be helpful in having those better conversations.
There's so many great leadership examples of like people who've stepped into CEO positions and that, and suddenly, and they realize that their immediate board only ever has good news, only ever has positive things, only has green light projects.
The dashboard's to be all green or yeah, exactly.
And they're like, why? This isn't even statistically possible. But they have learned based on feedback that if they present something that's a yellow light or a red light, then somebody's head's gonna roll, or something negative is gonna happen. And so we need to make sure that we have a safe enough environment
To experiment.
To experiment.
To experiment.
And to say, and to
"That
show
didn't work.
failures.
That didn't
And
work."
because if you are only doing the surefire things, then you're not using much wonder or invention, right? And so.
It's very incremental.
Yeah. So exactly, I think you kind of nailed it.
The other part there, I think, is that idea of being able to say, what we saw working with McCann and Kristen Sovis with the Community Foundation, we were working with some educators there, and it really wanted to be scalable. We were trying to do some visioning and bigger picture for the Alice, population in Midland County, and we were just in a visioning meeting, and I couldn't believe how many times things were being shot down because that wouldn't work, that's not scalable. And it's like we're talking about trials and pilots, and it was really hard to get past like, well, that won't work. You can't, here's why that won't work, or here's why that. And I think that's part of that idea of saying what level are we at, right? Because with so much in education, it has to be scalable. It has to work across the whole district, has to work for anything you can think about. And that's hard. You don't know that until you try it, right? And so we have to figure out how to do that in what school, where do you have the teachers or administrators that are asking for something that's different, and say, how do we let them experiment without shooting it down?
Even like the college program or the culinary program. I mean, there are things that have met a lot of resistance that have contributed amazing things, right? And so. And you don't know until you try.
Until you try, right?
You don't know.
So no, great. Phil, I know you were going to throw it open, maybe a little more conversation, but really that's all we had for you guys tonight. Really appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys. If you have any questions you want to email us about, because again, I understand it's a public forum, we're all on TV, but happy to work with you guys. If you want to take this back and, Penny, if you want to do this with your staff to follow up or anything like that, if they're interested in it, let us know.
Yeah, I think open the floor to other board members. I think one of the kind of oh yeah moments or oh duh moments was maybe we should, if others are comfortable with it, at least share your results with, like, in future years when we establish the study committees to mix up the teams a little bit. and think about strengths of each other and how they play off of each other.
I think Mick's idea as far as just getting some full board input, even if it's just a questionnaire, something like that, because that really does, sometimes there's things you haven't, that aren't even on your radar, that are on somebody else's radar, that if you saw them before you were 4 steps into a process, it would completely change your direction. So I think that's a really good, tangible action item that, if nothing else, you can take away.
I love the idea of like this introduction, and even when I took got my report, whatever, I emailed, the group and said, this is intriguing, in that regards. And I definitely want to take more time to think about it. And I think there's so many different ways in which we can utilize it in other settings. I think one of my is an I, and so my idea is like, how can we do this differently?
Yeah.
Like, ways of communication of how to not have things that happen in subcommittee only find out about them 2 days before a board meeting, right? Like, so some of those things, or 4 days or 5 days, however many days it is when we get the agenda packet. So to be able to have some of those conversations and thoughts processing before we get to the table up here, or even us being able to talk with one another, and because I think, especially as somebody who's an inventor and creative, the board meeting isn't necessarily always the place to have those like,
Right.
like spaghetti at the
bulbs.
wall kind of conversations. But, I mean, just for example, Penny and I have had meetings where we've done that, not in front of everyone. And so but that then helps to be like, I feel heard, right? As one of those things, you're talking about those wonder and the W's and the I's, as a way, like, I think there's other places too, as teams, that we can utilize some of those geniuses in ways that would help us function fully as a board more effectively. So I'm really excited to kind of just let that simmer for a bit.
Yeah. And hopefully you guys are sort of picking up on the fact of it's easy to say, well, I did bounce it off somebody that might have the same profile I have. And we nodded real quick because we kind of see the world the same way. Right, and I think it is important to sit there and sort of seek out somebody maybe a little different and get that, that different perspective, so.
Yeah.
I think the other reflection I had was just, listening to Joe's comments tonight in the public portion was really, I think what Joe's articulating is something that I worry about a lot is like, when you get to the activation, that's where you gotta almost over-communicate.
Exactly right.
And I don't know the answer to what the facility study and strategic planning is really gonna tell us, so I don't have an answer for you today, Joe. But I do appreciate your comments that, it's gonna be hard work to get from the end of that kind of assessment up until a potential treasury application, because you can't have those conversations after the treasury application's done.
Right.
Right? So, and, one of the things that we've said all along is that if this November is not the right time, then it's not the right time.
Right.
But I think, when you think through kind of where the community is at as a whole and how we communicate with them and make sure that they're part of this open dialogue, making sure that we don't go from ideation to implementation.
Right.
And we spend time on that activation is.
And you actually need to be able to narrow it down and say, hey, we're not just doing an open forum for the public to come talk about schools. We want to talk about something maybe a little disruptive and that to get people there. And we're not saying we're doing it, we're saying we want to talk about it. And that's a hard thing to do, right? Because you don't want to bring out the torches and pitchforks, like, no, I hate that. Like, hey, we're at the high level, right? But you need to get the community involvement. If it's just, an open mic kind of thing, we were busy, we didn't come to those. Tell me something I'm upset about, I'll be there.
So we're going back
Right.
to the analogy of landing the plane, and sometimes there's a meeting where y'all are talking about, well, which airport in Madrid should we use? And other people are like, but I want to go to Tahiti. So come here why I want to go to Tahiti. And so just making sure that those, that you're having the opportunity for people to say, well, why are we going to Madrid and not Tahiti?
Right.
And have that stage before you're talking about which airport are we going to land on. Before you're talking about,
Yeah, we've already got to that point,
Right.
and I wanted to talk about something up here.
And so that's where that transparency and the community involvement, having those conversations well-defined, and again, a little disruptive if they need to be, so people can be responsive, right? And maybe can help as well so that people don't feel like they're pouring all their energy into this beautiful landing
That then doesn't
that,
work.
yeah,
Right.
the airport's closed. I mean, I don't know how to finish that analogy, but that sort of thing.
Yep.
Anybody else? Scott, Brad?
Not scary, so.
I will say I've done Myers-Briggs and Clifton like 10 times.
Yeah.
This was very consistent with what I have seen in those other assessments.
Yeah.
It is a very practical, applicable model, right?
Like I said, it's more portable. It's easier to know your coworkers than Clifton and Myers-Briggs. Right, exactly. It's just another way of slicing it without the same, and those are rigorous studies, and this is a little more, hey, just tell me what you think.
Right.
Right.
Well, and this is how they work together, right?
Yeah.
Myers-Briggs, more communication style and that sort of thing, or the DISC assessment, that was one of the
It's behavioral needs,
behavioral things, and Enneagram. I mean, but this is actually, I think that's why Patrick picked gears, right? This is actually about intertwining, working together, making something happen, and kind of an easy tool for looking at that.
Yep. Okay.
Well, Adam and Lori, very much appreciate your time. I know, especially asking you to come and do this in a public forum is not,
Adam
not a
doesn't care
light
so
ask.
much. Me.
So thank you for your work on this and appreciate your input and insights.
All right, thank you guys very much, appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Take care.
All right, keep us moving forward. Item number 10, scheduled activities for information. The meetings are listed in the agenda packet, noting the one change earlier tonight to November 23rd. Item number 11, study session discussion. Are there any points of clarification or questions that any board members had? If not, I'll turn it over to Penny.
Just a few quick announcements. Hasn't been that long since we met last for our December board meeting. I hope you enjoy the cards that are in front of you. Those cards were made for you by our students at Woodcrest and Adams. Happy School Board Appreciation Month. And with 2 board meetings this month, we'll get to say that again on January 20th. Also, in your honor, these books, 1 copy will be donated to each of our elementary schools. And there's a sticker just inside that says it's in honor of the Midland Public Schools Board. And this is a lovely book about I Am We, a book of community, and it talks about just being a good community. So thank you for all you do to serve on this board. I know tonight was a little bit out of the ordinary for us. I think these are the things that will keep making us a strong board and help us, particularly as we move into strategic planning and our facility planning and navigating some of the conversations that we know we need to have. I'll also just say Happy New Year and happy semester 2. I think for those of you who've been on the board a while, you know once January hits, it just feels like just a bit of a whirlwind till we get to the end of the school year. So we will keep you well informed of all the great things that are happening across the district and events that you can attend and engage with our students. I'll just give a quick shout out to Siebert. They have started a new fun little endeavor with Bulldog of the Month. VIP students, and they have invited our admin team and board members to attend the monthly luncheon. John and I will be joining the group of Bulldogs tomorrow for their VIP luncheon. We'll send that list out again. I know Scott absolutely wants to participate in that as well. So feel welcome to do that, and where we can find other opportunities for you to get out into our schools the second semester, we'll do that as well. Just one quick little note. At our December meeting, we shared that we were moving forward with the Dower Street property, and you all approved that resolution to empower Phil and I to complete that transaction. We're working to schedule the closing this week and are excited to see that project through. And again, just the extra bonus that we know our building trades will have 10 years, probably 10 years of opportunity to build homes. So this feels like a really great project for us and partnership with Habitat. That's all I have. Happy New Year.
Same to you. Thank you for sticking with me tonight, especially to the TI in the room. And
The T outweighs the I.
With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
I should have known.
I know who the other one is.
Motion by Lauterbach, support by McFarland. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Mackey. It's gotta be Mackey, 100%.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's right. Let's go.
Can't call you it. Just call you cousin it.
That's right.